Hello listeners, my name is Muhammad Talha Awan and I'm a student of James Cook University, Brisbane campus. Today I will explain MCcann country analysis. Through the analysis, we will demonstrate the interrelationship and contrast between business guidelines of New Zealand and the other countries. The critical evaluation will provide a proper market potential information, business expansion opportunities, the risk and the challenges that an emerging business can face in the environment of New Zealand and so on. All the market analyses will be based on the concept and ideology of MCcann. Now I will explain about MCcann and MCcann style of country analysis. Colin McCann was born in Dublin but spent most of his adult life in the United States. He established himself as a young writer overseas. After jumping from employer to employer, he lived in New York City and lived as a writer looking east across the wide Atlantic Ocean. McCann appears to be fascinated in Ireland as a whole. He needs to demonstrate to us, an Irish family from Ireland, that he knows and cherishes. The writer believes that in order to reach to a particular realism, he must leave Ireland in addition to writing about it. I just felt I had to move in a different path, McCann once said in his isolation in a statement. Now I will talk about the market potential of New Zealand. It is the most important approach for determining and establishing the market possibility for a new service or product for a new company. It is also critical to examine the specifics of the industry. As a result, it is critical to understand the New Zealand as a region and company's market opportunity. New Zealand consistently rates high in terms of commercial integrity and honesty, as well as being first in the globe to trade across the borders. It provides relatively affluent and a sophisticated market with a clear corporate climate, and New Zealand is well known for being shovel ready. New Zealand also boasts a high income industry with a gross national income of $36,256. As a result, it would be a great decision for a company to expand their business in the market of New Zealand. Now let's talk about transport services of New Zealand. Transport plays an essential part in the economy of New Zealand, and it is critical for many sectors to preserve their distribution network. In this scenario, a company can provide a dependable door-to-door services while marketing its product. Courier services, e-commerce, and online banking services have all gone up commonplace in the previous 2 years as a result of COVID-19. Because a company provides various services that are dependable and making consumers' life easier, as well as keeping up with the trend, it has a limitless potential to develop in the market of New Zealand. Now I will talk about zero CO2 emissions. New Zealand has enacted the Zero Carbon Act and is attempting to achieve net zero carbon output by 2050. A company has also undertaken steps to safeguard the ecosystem in order to maintain a socio-economic stability for the future generations. Another company has implemented mitigation and adaptation methods to minimize the carbon dioxide emissions. They also have programs such as reducing the emissions and green packaging solutions and so on. As a result, it will be very easy for a company to compete in the market of New Zealand. Now let's talk about financial condition analysis of New Zealand. A New Zealand financial system, according to Hall et al., is a well-developed genuine free marketplace. It has the world's 52nd largest nominal GDP and the world's 63rd economy in relation to market fluctuation, currency fluctuation. New Zealand has a large GDP of its demographic of 5 million people, and wealth is distributed over the vast island country. The country's economy is one of the most industrialized in the world, relying significantly on international trade, particularly with the United States, Australia, Japan, China, South Korea, Singapore, and the European Union. This can only benefit a company which is a firm that focuses on the technical implementation according to 2020 projections. The country's GDP is relatively national, roughly 193.545 billion US dollar. Now I will discuss some points about the investment risk in the market of New Zealand. According to Stepanova, New Zealand, along with Singapore and Denmark, was acknowledged for demonstrating the business-friendly environment, with the majority of international business launching or expanding interest in the region in the past year. According to Costa Zaki's March Pacific, the head of the risk advisory, New Zealand is relatively secure and tranquil in comparison to the rest of the world. It is very consistent developing market. It knows its rules and regulation by heart. So any geopolitical risk of doing business in the New Zealand market is quite low. Now I will explain about the natural disaster in the market of New Zealand. Although government legislation may pose some problem for businesses, basic accounting practice demands that you should be well aware in respect of marketplaces and commodities. Natural disasters, according to Zakis, are the greatest significant risk for the New Zealand-based market and must be addressed with a strong insurance system. As a result, before extending its services and activities to New Zealand, a company must carefully consider the danger. Despite the dangers of a company growth investment, a company can handle the risk since it can obtain insurance in a way that economic or political uncertainty cannot, making the country a desirable site for capital investment. Now let's talk about the investment scope in the market of New Zealand. A company has undoubtedly had some amazing scope of significant financial returns on its financial investment. In New Zealand, there are undoubtedly some prospects for crowdsourcing. However, the fundraising companies must adhere to specific rules such as obtaining an FMA license. A firm can sell all the stock of its company to the community for a large sum through crowdfunding. A company can also work with other partners and seek assistance from the government and lenders in order to seek adequate financial resources. Proper finance and investment may easily lead to the organization's growth. Now let's move on to the human resources issue in the market of New Zealand. A short story in New Zealand for the past few years reveals that the country's top concern is the lack of human resources and capabilities. It was in the midst of the lockdown, and not unexpectedly, top staff priority was well-being and the fitness. This includes the provision for the health and safety for all the essential personnel. Everyone was in unclear situation as a result of COVID-19 incident. Culture of an organization, leadership, training, inspiration, engagement, and hiring, the most pressing issue concerning HR department today. Several studies have been conducted in New Zealand over the past few years, focusing on expectations, problems, competencies, and future of HR practitioners. The research ultimate goal was to assess HR professional capabilities and see if they could surmount these difficulties. An HR professional other essential job is to assist other people within the organization in understanding their position in the issue of diversity. Last but not the least, I will discuss about the business ethics. Ethical concern in a company enterprise encompass with a wide variety of subjects that come within the standard of ethic of a company. Encouragement of honesty and trust-based conduct are the primary ethical problem in the industry. But more challenges includes accepting of variety, empathetic decision-making, and governance that is compatible with the company's ideals. Despite the fact that the rules and legislation hold workers and employees liable, they do not prohibit workers from participating in unethical behavior. Now I will conclude my discussion for today. In conclusion, New Zealand has some severe problems due to its geographical size, labor availability and lack of investment opportunities, and so on. A solid marketing plan may have undoubtedly assist an organization in mitigating of all these challenges. Aside from that, the market potentially and appropriate business model have been presented based on the company's commercial operations.